I was really excited yesterday to hear about some friends of mine in the Kitchener-Waterloo area who are collecting food to distribute to those in need. They're networking with other people, neighborhoods, companies, and they're getting together grocery bags of food and giving it to people who are in need. I'm excited about this because there's a couple ex-inmates that I know in the Kitchener area that really are in need, and tomorrow they're going to be getting some groceries. But as I was thinking about these wonderful people who are sharing, it makes me think of the topic of gratitude. And there's an old story. Many of you have probably heard it before, but I want to read that story to you because I think it really brings out some great spiritual truths. By the way, I'm always looking for spiritual truth in stories, not just stories from the Bible, but I'm always trying to draw out the good out of any kind of a story that I hear. And there's a lot of great stories out there. But this story is called Stone Soup. Stone Soup. Maybe you've heard it, and there's different versions of it. So I'm going to just read my version of Stone Soup with you, if you don't mind. Listen to this. A kindly old stranger was walking through the land when he came upon a village. As he entered, the villagers moved towards their homes, locking their doors and windows. The stranger smiled and asked, "Why are you all so frightened? I'm a simple traveler looking for a place to stay and a warm place for a meal." "Well, there's not a bite to eat in the whole province," he was told. "We are weak and our children are starving. Better keep moving on." "Oh, I have everything I need," he said. "In fact, I was thinking of making some stone soup to share with all of you." And he pulled out an iron cauldron from his cloak and filled it up with water, and he began to build a fire under it. Then with great ceremony, he drew out an ordinary-looking stone from a silk bag, and he dropped it in the water. By now, hearing the rumor of food, most of the villagers had come out of their homes where they'd been watching from their windows. And as the stranger sniffed the broth and he licked his lips in anticipation, hunger began to overcome their fear. "Ah," the stranger said to himself rather loudly, "I do like a tasty stone soup. Of course, stone soup with cabbage. Now that's hard to beat." Soon a villager approached hesitantly, holding a small cabbage that he'd reserved from its hiding place, and he added it to the pot. "Wonderful," cried the stranger. "You know, I once had stone soup with cabbage and a bit of salt beef as well, and it was fit for a king." The villager butcher managed to find some salt beef, and so it went through the whole town. Some potatoes, onions, carrots, mushrooms, and so on, until there was indeed a delicious meal for everyone in the village to share. The village elder offered the stranger a great deal of money for this magic stone, but he refused to sell it, and he traveled on the next day. As he left, the stranger came upon a group of village children standing near the road. He gave the silken bag containing the stone to the youngest child, and he whispered to that group, "It was not the stone, but the villagers who had performed the miracle." Isn't that a great story? Of course, it's about sharing, and it's also about gratitude. When I hear this story, my mind goes to the scriptures, of course, and I think about the Apostle Paul and how grateful he was for even the smallest things. And in Philippians chapter 4, verses 10 through 13, listen to what the Apostle Paul has to say. He says, "I rejoiced greatly in the Lord that at last you renewed your concern for me. Indeed, you were concerned, but you had no opportunity to show it. I am not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." I want to just share with you a few thoughts I have from the stone soup story and what the Apostle Paul has to say in Philippians chapter 4. And they wonderfully mesh together and teach us some things about gratitude. Just very quickly, how is gratitude expressed? What are some ways in which we can express gratitude? Thinking about this coronavirus situation, the lockdowns, and I know it's even more serious in other countries than it is in Canada, and who knows how much more serious it will become. But how do we express gratitude, even in difficult times? Well, first of all, we can express our gratitude by taking inventory of what we have rather than what we don't have. You know, the people in that story, they were hoarding the little bit that they had because they were afraid. But we can celebrate what we do have and share what we do have instead of thinking about what we don't have. And we'll be a lot happier, and we'll be a lot more grateful. You know, there's an old saying that I used to complain about having no shoes until I met someone with no feet. And how important it is for us to value the things that we have, even the small things. You know, I've worked with homeless people. I've been going to a men's shelter now for 10 or 11 years, doing Bible studies, and once in a while, you know, somebody will complain about the shelter, and of course, they're not the greatest place to be. But I always tell the guys in the shelters, you know, don't complain about this place, because at least it's a place that's warm. It's a place that you can get something to eat. I've been in places in the world where the only shelter somebody might have is a cardboard box. I remember in one place in the world, I saw a lady eating her only meal for the day. And you know what it was? It was a chicken neck. And she was roasting it on an open fire. Just a scrawny little chicken neck. So, you know, we need to be thankful for what we have, even if it's not a lot. So we can be more grateful by taking inventory of what we do have. That's what the people in the story were led to do by this stranger, to take inventory of what they had. Take inventory of what you have instead of griping about what you don't have, because you know what? It could always be worse. There's always somebody in this world who's worse off than you, so there's no use griping about it. Take inventory of what you do have. And if you want to be grateful, not only take inventory of what you do have, but we can be grateful by having a positive attitude, by trying to think positively, by having an attitude of gratitude. I mean, that's what the Apostle Paul is doing in the book of Philippians. I mean, he was in jail when he wrote the book of Philippians. He was in prison, and it was not a good situation. And yet the word joy is abundant in the book of Philippians. The word joy is used over and over and over again by the Apostle Paul. And true thanksgiving really depends on our attitude. If you're a complaining person, then you'll find it hard to be thankful. But if you're a thankful person, then it's harder to complain. So we need to practice being grateful. The Apostle Paul maintained an attitude of gratitude, and that's why he was able to say, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Why did Paul say that? Because he was reflecting on the bad times. He said, I've had times where I had nothing, you know, where I was hungry. I've been in bad situations. And he said, but I've also been in good situations where I had a lot. But he said, whatever the state I'm in, I can be grateful because I can do it. That's a positive attitude. I can do this. You know, if I've been kind of joking around, posting some funny clips about not being able to manage this COVID-19 crisis, this pandemic. But you know what? I can do it. And you can do it too. We can get through this thing by God's grace. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So if you want to have an attitude of gratitude, or if you want to have real thanksgiving, take inventory of what you have instead of crying about what you don't have. Maintain a positive attitude. Like I said, that attitude of gratitude. And then thirdly, we can have a more grateful attitude, and we can be more grateful for our lives when we share with other people. And that's the beauty of that story of the stone soup, you know. The secret wasn't the stone. The stone was nothing. It was a catalyst that brought people together. And when everybody gave what little bit they had, everybody benefited, you know. Can you just imagine the one guy eating a potato by himself, or somebody eating that cabbage that was about to go rotten by himself or herself? But when they put it all together, it really worked. It gave everybody a meal. And so I think the main lesson in that story is that when people are in community and they work together, when they live together and love together, the result is something to be thankful for. You know, you may not have a lot to share, but everybody gains when we do share. So I would encourage you, if you've got something to share, if you got an extra box of cookies and you know there's a neighbor who hasn't been able to go out to the grocery store, if you've got an opportunity to pick up a few more items when you go to the grocery store and give them to somebody in need. I gave a backpack to a homeless person just a couple days ago. Just a guy that I saw when I was in Hamilton, and he was lying in the lobby of a building, and I didn't get too close to him. Of course, I maintained my distance, but I said, "Hey man, could you use this backpack?" He said, "Oh man, could I ever?" And it had a hygiene kit in it and some goodies and some other things. So, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn or brag. I'm just saying, folks, just like that wonderful story of the stone soup, if we'll all work together, we can do this. We can do this. Take inventory of what you do have. What do you have? We're blessed in so many ways we can't even fathom it. And then have a positive attitude. Don't think about the negative things. Fill your mind with the good things. Whatsoever is good, think on these things, as Paul also talks about in Philippians. And then share. Share with other people. And I'm so thankful that a lot of people are out there doing that. And may God bless you, and may we learn from this simple little story of the stone soup. Have a great day.